Hi everyone, nice that you could make it here, even though it's getting, I guess, towards the end of the show and several parallel tracks. I'm Marc from Vaadin, and I'm here to talk about the Vaadin designer that we are working on right now. So a visual designer, drag and drop, WYSIWYG is what we're talking about. So how many of you have actually used kind of a visual designer in your work, or are using right now? So yeah, not very many. Are any of you guys here for because you have been using the GWT designer and didn't really like that? Okay. So a bit of an overview. We're going to talk about why we are doing this, visual designers, what we are trying to achieve with this, and the Vaadin designer in particular, what decisions we have made doing this, what choices, and what are the features that we have been implementing right now. I'm going to demonstrate some I think really cool stuff, and then we're going to look to the future, what we are planning to do in the future. So first, how many of you are familiar with Vaadin? So a few. I'm not going to do any kind of presentation about what it is, just shortly. Vaadin focuses on helping you making great UIs, mainly for business applications. Now that division, or what is a business application, is not very clear, but I think we all understand a little bit about what I'm talking about anyway. So it's interactive. At least it's not just a web page. It's an application, and usually for businesses, for like work. And while we have been doing this, we have been noticing some things. So as many of the talks have mentioned here, people these days really expect kind of really fluid, great UX from their UIs. They are really expecting them to look great, to be easy to use, and so on, for consumer applications at least. But on the business side of things, it's not really the same picture. What we're finding is usually quite complex applications that are, you get through the day, but it's not really fun to use, or you don't enjoy it very much. This one is actually a healthcare application that's used in Finland. So when they use this, apart from being quite complex, this one view, it opens new windows and new windows and new windows, and they have to dig for some information that they actually have to write down to enter in a different view. So why is this? Why does this happen? So probably a lot of different reasons, but one thing that we have found, and I'm going to show you some really made up numbers now. So, but just to illustrate the point that I'm trying to get across. So quite often the consumer applications have a lot of users, at least compared to the business side of things. So just representative numbers, but anyway. They don't get a lot of money for each user. I just put a 1, they might get much less, but anyway. On the business side of things, you might have actually quite a lot of money per user. It depends a little bit. You can have like hundreds or thousands or whatever, but there's a big difference in any case. But on the consumer applications, you usually have quite few views, or they are quite simple. You don't have a lot of stuff that is going on. Whereas on the business applications, you can have a lot of views. You can have complex views. It's quite complicated. So what you end up with is that the money that you have to spend on each view, if you put it that way, is quite different in these. You don't actually have a lot of money per view to put down into the business application. So we have kind of come to the conclusion that we seem to be doing more complicated stuff at work than we do at home for fun. Strange. But so yeah, this is not actually a bad thing in itself, but what it means is that we have to, at work, we have to use all these complex applications, and we have less time and less money to spend on UX and making them really great. So we are trying to figure out ways to overcome this. So the Vaadin framework is an open source UI framework. We are trying to provide like great looking components that help you, and a framework that help you make these applications work great, like just faster, better UIs faster. And around that we have components, tools, and support also. And one of these new things that we have been working on is the Vaadin designer. So with this, we're really trying to speed up like a few of the tasks that you have to do when you are trying to design your UIs and doing UX design. So for now, the targets that we have in this first version is mainly developers. We are planning to expand that in the future, so we are thinking that if we could actually have the same tool that can be used by your UX designers, and they can give you this, you can work on the same file that you can use in your project when you're coding, or perhaps go back and forth and iterate on designs. That would be a really powerful thing. So that's what we are aiming for. We are really trying to speed up the layouting of things, because right now it's usually quite a lot of bit of going back and forth between the browser and code, reloading, looking how is this working, kind of a trial and error type of programming, which is not very, very efficient. So trying to get rid of that and just add a few novel features that we will look at that will also ultimately try to speed up things. Some things that we have realized we need to do is obviously fit into the workflow, because no developer is going to use it if you have to hop over to something really completely different and it doesn't really fit into your world. So also reliability, because I think many of us have tried these visual designers at some point, and you just don't use them because you don't think, you can't really trust it to not screw up your design, or it stops working when you touch the code or something. So we want to avoid that at all cost. Speed is obviously the thing that we're trying to achieve, so you can actually get things done much faster. And transparent, by that I mean it's sort of the same, being able to trust what it produces, so you can actually see the things that it produces, and you can actually use the things that you design with this without actually having the designer. So you know it won't stop working if you don't have the designer. You can see what it made. So we have a version available today from the Vaadin labs, which is kind of the experimental lab. Well, the name says what it is. It's pretty rough around the edges still, but it's progressing very, very quickly. And 1.0 will be commercial. It will be included in your Pro Tools if you are using our Pro Tools subscription, or then as standalone as well. And though this is nothing unusual for this type of tool, we had a previous version that has been available for free. So I thought I'd explain why we switched this. It's actually quite obvious. Has any of you used this tool? Yes? So this is how that looks. And it's been paused for a long time. We made this, I don't remember when, and at some point we realized that it's a huge task. We wanted to do so many things, and it's just been pushed down. There's always something more important. But, you know, it's been a thing that we want to address for a long time, but didn't really have the resources to do as a free product. But now, we made great plans and made it into a commercial product. And so now we actually have a dedicated team working on it full time, and we're fully committed to making this into an awesome product, or actually not this, but the next version. So, and so what are the problems with this then? Well, that's the old designer, and it's actually implemented as a web application in Vaadin, and that is very convenient if you are going to embed it into a web page. But that's perhaps the only really convenient thing with that, because as you can see, it's not really integrated into, this is Eclipse here, it's not integrated to Eclipse at all using the panels that you usually would use for these things. So this is actually should be the same thing, but it's not using it. And also you get that uncanny valley kind of feeling. It's the usability it works, but that's about it. The new one looks like this. So what we have done is, it's still Eclipse, but we have integrated with all the regular Eclipse panels. And so, okay, let me point out that this will get a great deal of polish. Our designers have actually been working on that. I'm a bit bummed that we didn't get that into the code committed before this presentation, but it's going to look great in the end. So, yeah, I don't know. We can try. Better? Yes. So, yeah, as I said, all these panels are different, and what that does is that you can actually arrange this in any configuration you would use. So whatever floats your boat, I guess. And it's not just, I mean, it's actually quite useful, depending on what you're trying to do and what you like. It's quite useful that you can arrange it for the task at hand. And so the result here is that we have a more modular thing. It's actually easier to integrate now into other products. So, for instance, how many of you are using IntelliJ IDE? Yeah, so this is what we have been the message we have been getting. So that is on our radar. And again, we want to integrate that properly. And now it's a modular thing that we can actually integrate for real. Yeah, so next topic. Declarative versus Java. Uh-oh. The old designer made a thing like this. So it's a single Java file. And it seemed like a good idea at the time. A lot of people liked it because they didn't want to do declarative. But in the end of the day, it breaks really easily. And you can write stuff in one place but not in the other unless you're really careful. The code structure of Java doesn't really reflect the structure of your UI, so you don't get it gets messy real quick. So we wanted to get rid of this. So in the new designer, if you have a UI like this, or a design like this, it will create a declarative file. So I come from a Java background. I've done a lot of Java, but you have to admit this is easier to read and to understand how that will look in your UI. Also, one thing about the format is that this is not actually a feature of the designer. So this is the transparency that I was talking about. You can see what it produces. You can actually write this yourself without the designer. You can use it. It's a feature of the Vaadin framework. So you can use it without the designer, edit by hand, create from scratch, so on. It's much faster to do it with the designer, though. One more possibility, if you're not really into designers and you like to type your code, you can actually set it up in a split mode. So when you type in your declarative format, you will get live updates in the view with the UI. So sort of a Xcode playgrounds thing, I guess. Also, one thing that it does, so we're trying to get the best of both worlds actually, is that it creates also kind of a companion Java file, the designer. You can do this by hand as well, but the designer does it for you. So it's quite easy. It wires up your components that you want to expose to Java, binds those. You can then, the thing is, this is simplified also because this will get overwritten. You are not supposed to put anything in here. And that just simplifies things and sort of forces you to make a sane division here. So you will have to extend this class or then use it in a composition. So you can use it straight as well. The format or how it will expose things is not set in stone yet, but still, it feels quite nice to use this. And what it in the end, the result is that if you are editing something in the designer that you have already wired up to your Java, if you say remove a button that had a click listener, your Java will actually go red. So you don't, as you often do with some sort of declarative format, you wire things up using strings. We didn't want any of that because that you will have runtime errors when some component has disappeared. So instead, it wires it up, and your Java goes red if you break anything while designing. Templates. This is purely a thing to speed up, and right now we have one template. It's called blank, but it will have more templates. And so this is for the first step when you're starting on a design. The idea is that we can have here ready-made like application structures, but also for dialogues, for instance. And you just choose the one that's closest to what you are doing. You have a ready-made UI, and you start configuring that how you want it to look. So also possibly we have been thinking that you might actually have your own repository with these. So viewport, resize, and presets. This is a video because it's hard to talk and do chewing gum and walk at the same time. Yeah. Anyway, you can resize the thing now easily to verify that it works on all sizes. And we also have presets. And also, you can actually add your own presets. So if you have a specific size that you're targeting, you can easily verify that it works on that. So you can see in my design here, the fields didn't really scale. So I would notice that I have to do something about that to make it responsive if I want to have it that way. So that's quite an awesome improvement, I think, because previously you had to do the reload in the browser, round trip, trial and error. So, okay, demo time. Do you guys have your phones with you, perhaps? So if you're connected to the network here, second floor, I think. We'll see if I can actually get this thing wired up here. So actually I'm going to try to get this on screen as well. So just a moment. That's me, that's not what you want to see. You want to see my iPhone. And what we're going to do is I'm going to open up. It's kind of hard doing this backwards. And up here we have something that says View In. And I'm going to zoom into that. So if you guys have a QR code reader, I'm not really managing this now. I'm going to do it from here. Maybe I should scroll over to the address. 1 minute. There's also an address here. I didn't expect the setup to be this far away. Any of you guys managed to get that? Anyway, yeah, just wait for a few guys to try it. Okay. Let me zoom that in a little bit more. Anyway, this works on your mobile or your browser or whatever. I can also click here to open it up in my default browser. So in my case, Chrome. And so my phone is showing there. Also, we are using the Wi-Fi here, so this might not work at all. But yeah, the point here is that if I start to edit something here, doing stupid things, then if the Wi-Fi would actually work, then we might see changes. Actually, I'm going. Yeah. So the idea here is that you can actually open it up on several browsers. You can have your iPhone and your iPad lying around, and you can, while you're designing, you can see how the changes affect your UI, and did you remember to make the components scale so that they fit properly. And but not only that, the idea is that if you are, for instance, trying to show what you have been doing to your boss, or you are kind of with your team trying to figure out how to do the UI or something, you can actually have the people join in and look at it. And this is something that we're going to expand upon to make it more of a collaborative thing, so you can iterate on your designs and so on. And so this already shows great promise, so it's quite handy that you can have your devices and see what you're doing real time. So while we are here, I mean, I'm not going to design very much backwards here now, but just to show you, so you can quickly see if your design is responsive, if that's what you are aiming for, or select a specific size if you're targeting something specific. You can add your own presets. So you can rotate, and these icons are going to get updated, by the way. So there's also a preview mode, so you get rid of all those extra things that you have while designing. And if you try this out, there's an important give feedback button. So let's get back to the presentation. Okay, so the point, I was recording this also just in case the Wi-Fi wouldn't work at all. So as I said, preview while developing, it can really speed up speed up your work, excuse me. So you don't have to do those round trips. And for the kind of collaborating on a UI, it's been quite powerful. And it's quite easy to imagine, I think, how you can expand on this concept. So a summary of what we have done then so far is to make it modular, flexible, declarative, and Java, so that you kind of get the best of both worlds, at least we hope so, because we hate the kind of string binding. Templates, more than one when we hit 1.0, and viewport resize, viewport presets, so you can quickly preview how your designs will look on different devices or in different UI like positions if you have dialogues or whatever. And also the external preview that we are quite proud of. It turned out to be quite useful. Also, there is theming support coming. Right now you can switch themes, and so for instance, we have a a theme called Blueprint that's specifically made for kind of wireframing purposes. So you could imagine your UX people using this one, and then you switch themes and apply the real one, for instance. The first version is aimed at Vaadin. It's going to be, you have to use Vaadin to use it. And it's for Eclipse. As I mentioned, we are probably going to do IntelliJ next, starting like any day now. It's really seems like when we get a few things smoothened out, we will start doing that, looking into that. We will also do a series of 1 point something releases. We have a few more features that we want to implement, and then we will start to work on the second version 2 of this, and we are aiming to do that for a wider audience. So plain GWT maybe, absolutely web components. If that sounds interesting, there's a talk after the break in room 1 about what the plans we have. And also I mentioned the designers, UX designers. We are trying to, at least internally in our company, it would be quite useful to have the UX designers use this at least for certain tasks, and then the developers can take and use the same files to at least start from. Nothing is set in stone, so we are listening to feedback and really interested in like sort of workflows we can help with and so on. We are looking at different directions, so tools like Sketch, the design app for Mac that's been getting much attention, Adobe Reflow, Mac web design tools. They are doing quite nice things for like web apps and so on. So trying to bring some of those things into the application world is what we are targeting. About the web components, I didn't say that specifically, but you might have noticed that our declarative format is actually, it says HTML, and it looks pretty much like web components. And that's not an accident. Although right now this is not really web components. We are reading this server side and using it just as a format. But it's made this way because we are planning to use exactly this format for the next version that is going to be web components based and so on. So it will be actually HTML at some point. So as I said, room 1 after the break we'll have more information also about that. So the main thing that we are trying to achieve is just more speed, make it much more faster to get better UIs. And kind of removing steps from the workflow is also one thing that we are looking at. So what I mean with that is one thing that we came up with is something we call generate design. So if you have a Java bean, some sort of entity and something, you could actually just hit generate design, and it will generate components, fields for all those bean properties, so that you can then just, obviously you will then have to position them, style it, resize, maybe remove something, maybe exchange some of them to something different, but at least you don't have to manually drag 50 fields, like if you're doing the healthcare application I showed. So just kind of trying to bypass that one step seems to be quite a powerful. So what we are doing right now is also trying to discuss to all you people and try to identify these sort of manual steps that you have to do that we could automate. So please go ahead, if you have any of those things, go ahead and talk to me or contact me, all kinds of feedback and suggestions you have. We would really like to make this a tool that you would like to. We're not doing this for ourselves. We are trying to get you to use it. So we would like to hear from you.